Hello everyone, my name is Mini Sethi. I hope you all are staying healthy. Today we are going to talk about liberalization, privatization and globalization. Or we can say that economic reforms since 1991. What do you mean by economic reforms? Economic reforms are changes made in country so that we can solve economic problem of our country. Economic reforms are changes made in countries so that we can solve economic problem of our countries, and these changes will be called liberalization, privatization and globalization. One by one we discuss about each. So what is liberalization? Liberalization means removing all unnecessary control and restrictions like permit, licenses, etc., so that private sector can freely invest. Obviously, when investment will increase, then output, employment, income will also increase. Eventually, our economy will grow. And economic reform under liberalization include industrial sector reforms, financial sector reforms, tax reforms, foreign exchange rate reforms, trade and investment policy reforms. So one by one we will discuss about each. First of all, we will see industrial reforms under liberalization. First industrial reforms is reduction in industrial licensing. During liberalization, industrial licensing was abolished except from some industries like alcohol, cigarette, hazardous chemicals and pharmaceuticals. Second industrial reforms is decrease the role of public sector. During liberalization, public sector was reduced from 17 to 3. Means before liberalization, 17 industries was working under public sector. Now only 3 industries are working under public sector like defense equipment, atomic energy generation, railway transport. Means now government is giving this opportunity to private sector. Next is financial reforms under liberalization. One of a major aim of financial reforms to change the role of RBI from regulator to facilitator. As we know, RBI is the Reserve Bank of India, and under financial sector reforms, we are changing role of RBI from regulator to facilitator. Regulator means RBI is imposing so much rules, regulation and control on banks instead of guiding and helping them. But facilitator means RBI is guiding and helping banks so that they can develop and grow together. So, under financial sector reforms, or we can say that one of major aim of financial sector reform, change the role of RBI from regulator to facilitator. Next is tax reform under liberalization. Under liberalization, government reduced corporation taxes, government simplified whole procedures of taxes. Next is foreign sector reforms under liberalization. Under liberalization, government do devaluation of currency. Devaluation means deliberately reduce value of currency. When currency value reduce, that means our currency become less expensive. When our currency become less expensive, that means our export will increase. Means now people will demand more for our currency. Eventually our export will increase. As our export increase, trade balance will improve. That means more money is coming in our country. If more money is coming in our country, investment, employment, per capita income will also increase. Eventually our economy will grow. Next is trade and investment policy reforms under liberalization. First trade and investment policy reforms is reduction in quantitative restriction in import and export goods. Before liberalization, there was so much restriction on quantities of export and import, but during liberalization, quantitative restriction on import and export was reduced. Plus, export duty was removed and import duty was reduced. Export and import duties are mainly taxes which imposed on exported and imported goods. Next reform is privatization. Privatization means transfer of ownership from public to private sector. Privatization means transfer of ownership from public to private sector. Means under privatization, government selling their own assets to private sector, because private sector can produce goods more efficiently because there is so much competition. And privatization can reduce the burden of government debts and can improve fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit means when government spending exceed from their income. Government can do privatization by two ways. First is transfer of ownership and management to private sector. Here government completely transfer their ownership and management to private sector. Second is disinvestment. Under disinvestment, government sell their certain percentage share to private sector. Next economic reform is globalization. Globalization means integrating our national economy with the world economy. Globalization means integrating our national economy with the world economy. Means under globalization we spread our business, ideas and culture across the world. But how we can do globalization? We can do globalization by removal of trade barriers. Obviously, when trade barriers will remove, then we can freely spread our businesses, ideas and technology across the world. Now we will see strategies of government for promoting globalization. Increase the limit of foreign investment. In order to promote globalization, government increase the limit of foreign investment. Initially it was raised by 40%, but now it range from 51% to 100%. Long-term trade policy. Under globalization, government introduced long-term trade policy and target of this policy increasing export and country share in global market. Third is reduction in tariff. In order to promote globalization, government reduce tariff. As we know, tariff means tax paid on goods which are coming in our country. And in order to promote globalization, government reduce tariff. Last is withdrawal of quantitative restriction. Before globalization, there was so much quantitative restriction on export and import, but during globalization, government reduced quantitative restriction on export and import. So this is all about liberalization, privatization and globalization. I think you got it, and thank you so much for watching this video. Bye, take care.